Hey, good evening, everybody. Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the channel. So, we did a deep dive on American Caramel. We did a deep dive on Coca-Cola. Tonight, we're going to do a deep dive on the Hires Root Beer. It's interesting to note that the Hires Root Beer history is kind of touted with mystery. But we do know for certain that in 1958, they did issue in their cartons a really amazing looking baseball card, the root beer test issue from 58. And I have my Willie Mays here. There's also other players from the set. And here is the official issue they came out with later that year. Now, this did have a tab attached to it at one point, and the tab was for you to send in, I believe, with a dime and a bottle cap, and you would get an official membership card from the Hires Baseball Club. Couldn't find what that looked like. It was interesting to note that this was right before the family sold the business over. So it's interesting how a lot of the stuff that I really like, the transograms, the Hires Root Beer, both were kind of at the end of the line. Let's go into let's talk a little bit about these cards and maybe tie in some history to Hires Root Beer in general to see if there's any sort of linear relationship between the two. Enjoy, guys. Coca-Cola article was also written by Bob D'Angelo. And so I think it's great that he carried on with another article about the Hires Root Beer test and the Hires Root Beer set. He talks a little bit about the history here, how it was Charles Hires was the man behind the business. His marketing and advertising skills kind of helped make the Hires Root Beer brand what it is and what it was and kind of what it is today. He was a pharmacist by trade, but he was an advertising genius, actually getting into the trading card business early on, the late 1800s into the early 1900s, with Victorian trading cards, stunningly beautiful pieces of artwork placed in ads and publications like the Ladies' Home Journal. The family carried on clearly, as we know. In 1958, they printed the baseball cards, both the test and the official issue. As we're seeing here, the Hank Aaron. This is an example in a near mint 8 with PSA, the card, and then the perforated tab below. And so, there's the test issue had 8 cards, and then they released a 66 card issue. I don't know why they numbered it from 10 to 76, but so that's just how it was. When obviously I think we were talking a little bit earlier, the baseball Hires Baseball Club today, they had a dual purpose, the tab below. It was distributed with and to offer membership to a fan club. It was also to hold the card onto the cardboard carton of soda bottles that this was distributed in. And as we mentioned, if you look closely, it talked about promoting the Hires Baseball Club. You would send it into the P.O. Box in Haddonfield, New Jersey, and you would get a book, a How to Play Baseball book, and a valuable membership card. I have been unable to find either one of these. So let's zoom out. And so, yeah, they talk a little bit about, like the high grade ones. Finding a high grade is difficult, and also finding them with the tab still attached is very challenging. They talk a little bit about the design, how it was similar to the prototype Bowman's that was considered for 1956, but Topps bought out the competitor and was later revived in a 2003 Bowman Heritage set. They talk a little bit about here, I guess D'Angelo was able to reach out to a collector from Maryland named Peter. And the one thing that he said that really caught my eye was he would love to know the background on team selection, because it was very much random. Obviously there were big stars, but there was no Yankees, no A's, no Tigers, no White Sox. It's hard to really imagine what the reason was. I can only think maybe contractual reasons were never set, so that's why you don't have like a Mickey Mantle, but who knows? It's hard to say. That's one question I was trying to find answers to when I did this deep dive, but unfortunately I was left with more questions than answers. So here is that Willie Mays. It's a fun set to build. It's a challenging one, though. There's a lot of Phillies, which kind of makes sense because of the fact that the headquarters for Hires Root Beer at the time was in Philadelphia. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. And so, as it mentions below on the very bottom, that eventually in the 1960s, I don't know the exact date or the year, but in the 1960s, the family did sell the business away, which we will get into why. So let's go over here. So we were talking about how that you can see on the right there's Charles Hires, the man behind the business, and really much to the success was due to the innovative advertising. Hires became the first major advertiser and mass marketer in the beverage industry. In the 1880s, full-page Hire ads unheard of at the time appeared in newspapers, magazines, as far as away as Hawaii. I mean, that's pretty groundbreaking. The Hires Company produced trading cards featuring healthy, rosy-cheeked children consuming frothy mugs of root beer with information about health benefits and the company's commitment to pure, natural ingredients on the reverse. They placed it on booklets for children, trays, pocket mirrors, lamps, mugs, and other novelties. So, I mean, it's not a surprise that even early in this time frame, trading cards, novelties, knickknacks, you name it, were planted with Hires advertising. So that's pretty cool. But it goes to show that, these times were tough. By the 1950s, way after Charles Hires passed away, the family was struggling. It was facing competition. For a long time, they were the number one root beer brand. But other competitors came into the fold. Barks is still in business today in New Orleans. Also A&W restaurants even were in Lodi, California. Independent breweries in St. Louis, Dad's Old Fashioned in Chicago, Illinois, and Mug in San Francisco. I mean, the industry exploded. So the root beer industry also competed with more popular sodas and other confectionery, such as non-carbonated drinks, candy, gum, and ice cream. I mean, everything kind of just blew up. So they eventually did sell the majority shares in the company in 1960 to a Chicago-based Consolidated Food Corp. Hires was liquidated. So, I mean, it kind of it trickled down. So, I mean, that's pretty much what they're talking about here is that it did trickle down. Let's go to the next article. So here's like an example. This is from 1912. This is an example of a trading card. He was an innovative advertiser. For Philadelphia Journal, like most newspapers in the 1880s, would only accept single column ads, but he convinced them to take ads that crossed several columns, created colorful trade cards and postcards. As mass market magazines came into vogue, he was a regular advertiser, taking advantage of the full color images they could print. He had his ads painted on the side of buildings, and he had signs made for walls of local stores. So he was definitely involved in a lot of what you see, trading cards. What I don't exactly know why he didn't get into baseball cards early. It doesn't show that he's gotten into them, but I can only imagine. Root beer just wasn't really, or not. I don't think they were calling it root beer at the time. I think they eventually got there, but I don't think baseball and root beer or whatever was identified at that point as was not really, they weren't going hand in hand with each other. So maybe it just wasn't the right business model, but that's all speculation. I don't know for sure. But you could see, that this was definitely marketed towards maybe, children, women, definitely considered to be more of a health drink. So as you could see right here. Let's go to this last one here. The Victorian trading cards that Hires and other businessmen of his time used were very successful. They were frequently made by wonderful artists. The back of these cards contained additional information on the product. Many households collected these trading cards as a pastime. This meant that they frequently received, kept, read, and looked at the ads. Hires Root Beer published many such cards. Product was meant to appeal to consumers, even though its very name, Hires originally referred to his product as root tea. Again, not really something that was connected to baseball, I suppose, at the time. had approached Hires about marketing his product as alternative to beer for the hard-drinking Pennsylvania miners as the temperance movement gathered steam in the latter part of the 19th century. So, I mean, you go look at fast forwarding 1919 Prohibition. So Prohibition kind of hurt the company, it seemed. Nevertheless, we obviously that kind of goes to show. We go back here. Didn't make its baseball mark, it seems, until the 1950s, in 1958. So way after, and this is at that point in time when Hires Root Beer was a nationwide recognized brand. So while it's difficult to say where, if this was distributed nationwide or locally or like in a regional way, I have to think that this was probably distributed everywhere, given the longevity of the company and the business. It's been around for a long time, and their success in the late 19th century and 20th century. So I'd have to think that at this point, Hires Root Beer was widely recognized. And kind of going back a little bit, I know we were looking at this P.O. box. So we know that it's in Haddonfield, New Jersey, P.O. Box 500. That's their mailing location. And I was able to see, here's an example from 1958. These are some of the Hires Root Beer bottles. This is on eBay. This is going, for like $23. You can get these bottles. And so just some close-ups there. The ingredients, the bottom of the bottle. And you can kind of see the Charles E. Hires Company main office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which I was able to find the address of their office location. And I was able to kind of do a little bit of legwork here, and I was able to find the post office, which I would believe is where the P.O. Box was located. It was only about, like a 20-minute drive to where the old headquarters used to be. No longer there, obviously, but pretty cool to see that they were right on the Delaware River when they were still in business. So, and right off the highway. Or the interstate. But nevertheless, I think it's just a fascinating story. It's a shame they sold the business, but competition was what it was. But I'm glad we're able to carry on a legacy of really enjoying these cards, whether they're perforated or not. They're beautiful, beautiful collectible items that I know a lot of collectors really enjoy. So it's kind of great to see the Hires Root Beer legacy carry on through baseball cards today. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I thought it was really fascinating to kind of dive deep into the Hires Root Beer test and issued cards. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And let me know what you think in the comments. Take care, everybody.